Hello and blessings, my beautiful souls. My name is Avalon and welcome back to my channel. Today I would like to talk about some of the decks that I have used the most this year, 2021. These are not decks that came out during 2021. These are just the ones that I have personally reached for time and time again and had a great time with throughout the entire year. They are in no particular order, but I'm excited to show you what it is that I have been playing with. And this year has been one of the years that I have chosen to reach back into my archives. As a collector, I have a number of decks that I've had in my possession for a very, very long time. And I don't want to ignore those decks. I love going back and revisiting that excitement. And these decks have always been able to hold an incredible amount of value and power because I notice myself reaching back for them time and time again. And there are a few decks that are missing here, but they are up in my top cottage, and of course it's decided to pelt down with rain. So the ones that aren't here are the second edition of the El Goliath Tarot and the Steampunk Tarot by Barbara Moore and Ali Fell. Okay, so they're the ones that are missing from this list. Other than that, I have them all down here and I'm excited to get to show you. All right, so let's get in and have a look at the Lover's Path Tarot by Chris Walder. This deck has been around for a very long time. It focuses on the archetypal energies of love throughout time, sacred couples, Dionysus, Adrian, we have Paolo and Francesca. Most of the mages and the court depict ancient lovers and couples, and it's just such a beautiful, beautiful deck. The artwork is very soft and it has a very gentle feel to it, but when you're using the deck, it's quite direct with its message, and it allows you to absorb that kind of all over universal energy of love because it is so richly packed with ancient lover archetypes. So I have always really enjoyed this deck. The Lover's Path is one of those beautiful tarot decks that I reach for when I'm doing a very particular type of love reading. And it really comes down to the fact that when I'm doing readings for other people, I like to ask a few questions, especially love-related readings. I don't like to pry, and if people don't like to talk about it, that's fine. But the more information that I can get, the more specific I can make the choice of deck. And the Lover's Path has come out a number of times with repeat customers whose story I know already and who are looking for guidance in love. And it's a very strong deck in that way. Next, we have a bit of a different deck. This is the Hilda Tarot by Duane Bryars, I believe. I hope I haven't butchered that. This is the Gingham edition. This is such a sweet and sassy deck. I've got to say, it brings the good, happy feels. It's a great deck for the use in summer, which we are in right now, but it has a levity to it and this really gorgeous kind of, I would call it body positivity, because she's a beautiful, likely sculpted, kind of curvaceous body, and I just love to see it. I love to see it. It's diversity in a way, and and it's beautiful, and it's very body proud. It's very body positive, and I don't know, there's just something about it that I like. Like, my body looks a little bit like this, so I'm happy to be represented here, and I think it's important as well. But I do love this deck for the cheekiness that it is. It's cheeky, it's fun, it's happy, it's actually quite funny, and it makes a lot of sense when you're looking at it. I love a tarot deck that you can look at that makes a lot of sense. Four of Swords, I'm having a bit of a rest here. Five of Pentacles. Oh, look at it. Five of Cups on a toadstool, little doggy there. It's just too cute for words, really. And I'm surprised at how much I have actively reached for the Hilda Tarot, because at first I looked at it, I'm like, oh, that'd be great for my collection. I looked at it from a collector's point of view, and then I got it and I started working with it. I'm like, you're actually very good. It gives you a really sassy read. It's a very honest deck. but it's very uplifting. I've never worked with this deck and then walked away and felt heavy. Even if the message was hard to hear, I've still felt a sense of like upliftment, if that makes any sense to you whatsoever. All right, let's move on to a beloved deck of mine. This is the second edition, the smaller version of, the Mary L. Tarot. The Mary L. Tarot has been around for a very long time. It's an iconic deck. The story of the Mary L. has been told time and time again. But then I saw that there was a smaller version, borderless, gilded, and I had to have it because I do love the Mary L. Tarot. I have 2 larger copies of the Mary L. Tarot than this one here. So it's the only deck that I own that I have multiple copies of, aside from my own deck, that is. But look at that death card. It is such a confronting and polarizing deck. And I find that people who love the Mary L, they do so from this place of like, it's almost like a Scorpio undercurrent. It's a very Scorpio deck, I feel, and I'm a Scorpio rising, and so I think that that's part of the pull, because it's a very confronting, like I've said, deck. You look at it and it's weird, it's heavy, it has this element of darkness, it has a twisted kind of esoteric vibe to it, and you really have to be into it. There is no one way. You can't half love the Mary L. You have to all the way love it, or all the way just not vibe with it. And I find that it was a deck that I have used for shadow work. It is a deck that I have used for personal angsty types of readings where the situation that I'm exploring is very knotted and very intense. I've worked with this deck for magical reasons, esoteric questioning, life mapping. I've even tried path working, and that was not great, okay? Don't path work with this deck unless you want to freak yourself right out. I mean, I take that experience away with me with a smile, mind you, and I'll probably do it again, but I've got to say, at the time, it was extraordinarily uncomfortable. Anyway, there is the second edition of the Mary L. Nice little silver gilded edges. Absolutely worth it. This is a deck that I feel like I'll work with more because the larger Mary L, I don't know, I feel a need to preserve them. They're very big and I have tiny little baby hands, so. Right, let's move on now to the Lightsabers Tarot by Chris Ann of the Sacred Creator brand. Chris Ann is a beautiful, beautiful soul, and I am so happy for her and this gorgeous deck. Look at that star card. It has to be one of my faves. There is such a fun and young, fresh kind of energy to this. That reminds me of Byron Bay Blues Festival. There's just some saucy, sexy archetypes in here. There's a freedom, there's a freshness, there's a funness, there's a liberating kind of energy to the Lightseers, and I think she has done such an incredible job. This was originally a self-published deck, and I have the self-published version of it. It is now available mass market. Oh, look at the 3 of Cups. I love the color palette. I love the art style. It is a beautiful deck, and it delivers a great, well-balanced reading time and time again. It is not a forceful or sassy type of message that you will get from the Lightseers Tarot. What you will get is something of the true self, something that enables you to tap into the authentic self, something that works really well with stimulating creativity and opening up those creative centers. Very Svadhisthana chakra, very solar plexus manipura, and then Anahata, very heart chakra oriented. Those primary chakras in the center of the body, I feel them when I work with the Lightseers Tarot, in which case I feel like it is a extraordinarily healing and balancing type of tarot deck, and I recommend it. This is a great deck to recommend to newcomers to tarot, as well as it is not so confronting, and it has a freshness and a modern kind of edge that people can get behind. I love the style of art in here. It's a little watercolor, and that is my favorite style, really. And I think that the way that it's been created and the way that it was put together and delivered, everything about it just feels right. And so it is a deck that I do not hesitate to recommend to anyone who is like, I'm new to tarot and I'd like to start working with a really fun deck. It is a non-traditional deck, but it is not so far removed from traditional imagery that you feel lost with it. And so I find that it is an exceptional deck in that way. Very approachable and a great beginner deck. Now we move on to an oldie but a goldie. And this is the Tarot of Delphi. Now, do I have the box for this somewhere? I certainly did. Oh, here we go. Created by this lovely lady, curated by J.D. Hildegard Hinkle. I could have remembered that, but this is a deck that has been made from pre-existing artwork, really classical pre-Raphaelite style artwork, and for that reason, it goes off. Oh my god, I love it. I love it so much. If you're a lover of art, then this deck will speak to you in a way. It has everything I never knew I always wanted in a tarot deck. The only thing I don't really love about it is the outer border, but it's not very confronting. And the backing is fine. There's just, the border could have been better, but it doesn't irk me at all. It's just something that I notice every so often. And it's something that I play around with. So such a great collection of art has been chosen. It was really well curated. And I don't know, there's something about it that when you start working with it, the artwork moves through you. It is a great deck for channeling. It's a great deck for working with ancient archetypes and old world energy. Oh, look at that. So you do have quite a bit to work with here, and I get lost. Oh my gosh, look, I get lost in the art. It's great to just flick through. I'm talking to you right now and I'm flicking through and I'm having a look at it, and it affects me every single time. Every single time. So there you have it. That is the Tarot of Delphi. Really great for intellectual style readings, and it's also wonderful for tapping into, I have found, and this might seem odd, relationship dynamics. And I'm not talking about lovers, I'm talking about family. And there's something about that. Spirituality, it works okay with. I wouldn't necessarily call this an all-rounder style deck. It is very attuned to a specific energy, and for me that attunement exists in the realm of like family drama, and of which there is always some of. Alright, I'm going to move over to this one here, and I won't linger because this is my own deck. This is the Bone Stone, and this is the deck that I have worked with the most this year. So I created the Bone Stone, and the artwork for the Bone Stone Tarot has been done by Anna Turian. And we created this beautiful deck live in front of a YouTube audience. So it is well known on my channel at the very least, so I don't feel like I need to speak too much about it. But what I have come to understand about the Bone Stone is that it has a good solid piece of me in it. It's not my only deck that I will ever make, because now that I've released that piece of myself in this deck, I have ideas for other decks, and I want to work with Anna Turian for that. And this is the first edition, of course. I would like to do a second edition, but that is not in the cards just yet. And I have spares at the moment. I keep getting emails about it. I have spares at the moment, but because of the way that things have been with COVID, I haven't been able to send very much anywhere. There have been places that have been restricted to me. I haven't been able to receive posts from certain places because of our personal COVID situation here in Australia. So there's been a lot of like hard shipping processes and protocols to go through. So I didn't even want to look at that because it just got so tricky. Even sending things back and replacement decks, I wasn't able to do it the way that I wanted to do it. So it was very, very frustrating, and I'm waiting for next year for things to really solidify with postal services and to liberate so that we can start sending things back and forth. So I'll be listing leftover decks for the Bone Stone in the new year. because this year has been infuriating and frustrating for that kind of thing. And the last one that I'm going to show you here is another oldie but a goldie, and that is the Druidcraft Tarot. And the Druidcraft was created by, oh, it's going to say it here, Will Worthington artwork, Philip Cargom, I think, Caitlin Matthews, I think, all the names in the realm of modern druidry. Kernunos. Oh, I just posted an image of this, a couple of photos of me using the Druidcraft on Instagram this morning. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, I have so much solid appreciation for the Druidcraft Tarot. It is ridiculous. I love the way that the reds are done. I love the way that there is a heavy infusion of green throughout each of the cards. This is one deck in which I don't mind the borders because it makes it perfect for visualizing the entry point into a path working. So it's a deck that I have path worked with a whole lot. It's a very spiritual deck. So witches and druids and Wiccans and people of earth-centric spiritual systems, pagans of a spiritual nature, they would get a lot out of a path working with the Druidcraft Tarot. It is heavy in Celtic lore and mythology. And so if you are of Celtic origin or have fragments of Celtic origin, or Celtic associations. What's the word that I'm looking for? Affinities? I can't speak. But if you have a little Celtic in you, let's put it that way, you may find that this deck resonates even more. And as someone with, you know, a rich Scottish history on my father's side, it is the reason why I ended up being quite drawn by the deck. It's stunning. It's so fun. It's so earthy. It's beautiful to work with. It gives a really wicked spirituality reading, and it's a very grounded type of reading with a lot of balance to it. So for that reason alone, I reach for it on and off throughout the year, and just, it's nostalgic now. Because I've had it for a while, it just feels very nostalgic when I work with it. Which makes me feel awesome. A lot of the decks that I personally choose to work with are decks that make me feel a very specific energy, a very specific emotion. There are some beautiful decks out there and some fantastic ones that I have been gifted, given, unboxed, and collected myself that don't possess that same kind of energy. It's almost like a friendship. I have a friendship or a relationship that I have cultivated with each of these decks, and it's happened very naturally. It's not something that I've ever had to force, and I think that that's an important thing, because no matter how beautiful your tarot deck is, if you are not cultivating an easygoing relationship with your deck, then you're not really going to be on par with it. And I find that a lot of the issue with people working with tarot is that they get a deck that they've been told to get, or a deck that they've been attracted to, but the deck doesn't deliver, it doesn't connect, it doesn't hit, it doesn't trigger the intuition. So it's always fun to experiment with all different kinds of decks. The Sun and Moon Tarot has to be one of my favorite decks out there because of the way that it makes me feel. And I've had an aversion to that Sun and Moon Tarot for such a long time. Likewise, what is the other one? Oh, holy moly. There's another one that I thought, I'm just not going to like you. And oh yes, it's the Dame Darcy Mermaid Tarot. I have 2 copies of the Dame Darcy Mermaid Tarot, 2 editions. And again, it was one of those decks that I thought, you're not really my cup of tea, you're not really my art style. And yet I got them and I started working with them, and boom. Another one of my absolute favorite decks, which I'm not mentioning here today because I didn't work with it quite a lot this year, but it's a deck that I love. It is solidly in my top 10 of all time, and that is the Bonefire Tarot by Gabby Angus West. And so all of these decks deserve a bit of an honorable mention because they've been around for a while. They have given me such great experiences as a reader and as someone who has sought out guidance and life mapping and all sorts of things personally for myself. And I've got to say that there are decks out there that don't look like something that you would necessarily go for, but that can deliver a banging reading. And that's all I care about, is a good deck that can give me an excellent, excellent reading. And I'll know that immediately when I start to shuffle and work with a deck. The first couple of draws with a new tarot deck is something that I can absolutely use to my benefit, to understand and to, I guess, assess the caliber of the deck that I'm working with. And all of these decks that I have shown you here are of a very, very high caliber, and the ones that I have mentioned during this conversation, again, very, very high caliber. So my beautiful souls, with all of that said and done, I hope that you have enjoyed this little share and that it has given you a little, a little extra something to think about, and perhaps it's inspired you to reach into your collections and have a look at the decks that have inspired you and that have connected with you and you've built a relationship with over time. It's always a really good thing to do as well, these types of videos, because it reminds you of those gems in your collection that you probably haven't played with for a little while. I find that collecting tarot decks, plural, is a wonderful thing. But if you're not using the decks in your collection, then they're going to waste. And, that makes me quite sad. So, that is the inspiration behind this video. We are also towards the end of the year, so it's really nice to do that kind of a retrospective. And I hope that you've enjoyed it. With all of that said and done, my beautiful souls, I'm wishing you so much love, luck, peace, and joy. Do give this video a thumbs up, share it around if you know of someone who could benefit from it, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I would love that. I would love for you to be a part of my little family here on YouTube. And with all of that said and done, take care.